All right, so we're talking today about non-traditional or non-linear growth. Hashtag exponential growth. Peter Diamandis, Moore's Law, all this other stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare it to the movie or the book by, I believe it was Michael Lewis, that the subtitle was kind of what hit home for me, but a lot of people don't even remember the subtitle. Like, I'll say the subtitle, people won't even know the book or the movie, and that is The Art of Winning an Unfair Game. And the book and the movie was Moneyball. Now, if I say Moneyball, most people immediately think Brad Pitt. They think of Noah Hill. They think of Jonah Hill. They think of what's his name, Philip Seymour Hoffman, or they think about all the different people who were on the Athletics at the time. And the thing is, if you get caught up in that, you kind of miss the point of what I'm saying. Is, like, as a coach, especially in the fields that I'm in, as it relates to nutrition, as it relates to strength and conditioning and mental conditioning, all things human performance, what traditionally has been done hasn't always been based in evidence. It hasn't been evidence-based planning or programming or formulation. So as it relates to like a scientific approach, it hasn't been the way that it's been done very often. So, and as technology improves, we're afforded the opportunity to shorten that feedback loop, because now we can see how something works, and then as it goes through the loop, we get basically our evidence back or our feedback back, and then we optimize, adapt, overcome, recalibrate, boom, check it again. So and this has been going on for forever, but at least like the last several decades. So having been in this field for the last couple of decades, I can tell you we get better at getting better if you're paying attention. But the people who have been doing it the same way that they've always been doing and haven't been optimizing along the way, they haven't been getting those like you get from Apple, like, hey, listen, you need to update your software, you need to update blah, blah, blah. Like, they haven't even done an overhaul of their hardware, let alone their software. So what ends up happening is the space between the do's and do nots gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you're not on the cutting edge and paying attention and evaluating and really checking your stuff out, then you're going to be way behind. And that's the way that like it plays out in this world of coaching. Because I can tell you, with having grown people to Division I, Division II, Division III level in college, where they fought the odds to get there, actually they didn't fight anything. They literally just, if anything, they fought themselves and their old beliefs. But pushing through that, or their own limiting factors from where they came from a small school, or a coach that maybe hadn't coached anybody before at that level, or maybe they weren't doing the best practices, or their habits weren't going to create the habitat they're looking for in the future, but we sat down and we got clear on what we needed to change, that kind of sabermetrics approach that Bill James talked about in the movie and in the book. And so what happens is, in life, we're Billy Beane and we got Peter Brand, that Jonah Hill character, sitting down next to us. And so Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill are sitting down at the table and they're like, hey, how do we get this done? We can't compete with the Yankees' $125 million salary with a $44 million salary. So we're not going to be able to do what they do at their level because they have better resources to sustainably do that. So we have to do something differently. We have to think differently. We have to figure this out differently. So the scout gets really agitated, the head scout. His name was Grady in the movie, and he's like, this is crap, like, and then he starts attacking them, like starts shaming them, guilting them. He starts attacking Billy Beane, then he starts attacking Peter Brand, then he starts attacking Bill James, who's not even involved in the equation, actually. He's just literally has the equation that they're using, and then they're really kind of like overlaying that across like their approach is their management style, and that's their philosophy, and so they're trying to put that into play. The funny thing is, the owner of the organization is kind of like a lot of the peers in your life, especially ones that you have that place value in their opinion, and they're basically like, look, I'm going to give you some leeway, but if this doesn't work, or when this doesn't work, we need to clean things up and go back to business as usual, because this is what I have to invest, and it's up to you to make the decision, but you're accountable for it. Then they've got to work that's above them or even with them. And then below them is Art Howe, the manager. Now you have to convince Art to go all in on this too, because he has to actually execute on that game plan by putting in the right players in the right spots. Just like, Jim Collins talks about getting everybody on the bus and getting the right people on the bus in the right positions so that we can make this thing go as good as it can go. Now, in the movie, the kind of the pivotal person that really he wasn't committing to because he had so much disbelief that he could get it done was Scott Hatteberg, and he didn't want to play him at first. So Billy Beane at one point goes all in and basically trades the other first baseman. So he forces him to have to do that. So how can we force ourselves to have to execute on whatever the plan is, to go all in, to give ourselves the opportunity to be successful? And that's really what it's about in life. It's, hey, listen, your genetics are your genetics, but just because your DNA is what it is doesn't dictate that you get to X, Y, and Z of a destiny. It just changes the way that you get there. That's it. It doesn't predetermine your destiny. It just changes your course of action. The journey that you're going to go on is going to be different. So instead of saying, hey, listen, how do we win the unfair game? It's, don't even think about it as an unfair game. Just think about it as it's a game, all right? You have the Yankees over here, and that the genetically gifted person who's predetermined that's probably going to be exceptional, whatever, a distance runner or something. Or maybe they have incredible stamina, or they have incredible power or strength or whatever it is, or incredible intelligence. But you can develop yourself into the best possible version of yourself, and that gives you an opportunity to do whatever. So instead of just worrying about the genetics over here, that unfair advantage of the game, how about we worry about like what we decide we're going to take action on and what we're going to pay attention to, and optimizing our feedback loops and all these other things that we can choose to do. But if you don't do that, if you're going to stand there like a victim, if you're not going to go all in, if you can't get how to kind of like push the button on the lineup card and actually get Scott Hatteberg at first base so that he can be in there when we need to like have that big hit, well, you're going to be the person that says, I tried, but it just wasn't in the cards for me.